Welcome to Adaptive Arts, and I'm a co-host, Julie Palkowski, along with my friend, pal, buddy for over 30 years, Miss Susan Lazel. Oh, she's on the other side. Sorry,
Hello,
Susan
everybody.
Lazel. So we're very excited to be here. And Sue, why don't you describe what we have in mind for the whole school year?
Wow. We are so excited to provide opportunities not only for networking between ourselves, but also provide opportunities for you to explore some opportunities. The next session that we're going to be having in November is going to be building classroom relationships. And that is not only developing relationships with the students and stuff, but developing relationships with media, with students, with other people in the building and in your school district. Because sometimes we're lone wolves, us arts folks. And the next one in January, we're looking for other resources for success. And with those kinds of things, that could be more adaptive tools, more adaptive strategies, other things that kind of are, as the year has kind of gone on, you may have found some fantastic things you want to share with the group. We may have come up with some other strategies and things for you. And we may even have found some other resources that can kind of help you as you are looking towards the rest of your school year. And then reflecting upon how did our school year go? What kinds of things are we looking forward to end the year, in June, but also what can we do to prepare for next year? What kinds of opportunities and things to recharge your batteries and things can we do during the summer? So a lot of
Awesome.
this too can also be part of your input. As the sessions go on, you can email us and we'll add different kinds of things in that the group might be interested in.
So again, welcome to Adaptive Arts. We're really excited. This is a free virtual session. We're very passionate about making sure we have access for the arts for all. So here's our game, this or that. So an example, if you look on the screen, we have rock and roll as a choice or country. So let's just do a practice. What would your preference be? Be rock and roll or country? You can choose. I think I'll go rock and roll. Oh, you guys are all rock. That's cool. Okay, here we go. I'm going to play the video and you'll very cool. So like I said, this is just something that you could do in your classroom. You could change out the pictures. It could be favorite pieces of artwork or sculpture or music. As we were talking about, there is going to be a Padlet available. We've got things that talk about universal design for learning and practice, just a variety of websites and articles that go with that. It's got some really nice student success stories of students that are very successful in the arts and what that may look like. Sue and I have been populating with different resources that might be helpful. For instance, Sue has an amazing art communication board. I also created a music communication board. And then trends that we notice in arts education, as well as some additional websites. So these are just things that we pulled together so far, but certainly could use your expertise and anything that you think would be really helpful to our community that we're trying to build. A little bit about ourselves. My name is Julie Palkowski. I was the arts and music arts education consultant in Wisconsin for about 9 years. I've been in the classroom as a music teacher for about 15 years. And then I was an arts administrator and a principal for about collectively with all of that together about 10 years. So I've been in education over 30 plus years and have really enjoyed the opportunities to work with so many incredibly gifted art, music, theater, and dance teachers across the state as well as across the nation. And I'm going to hand over to Sue so she can talk about the incredible, rich experiences and expertise that she's bringing to the adaptive arts sessions.
Yes, thank you, Julie. Sue Lazel. I'm an adaptive art specialist art therapist. I worked for Milwaukee Public Schools for 30 years, and in that role, I work with special ed teachers, art and music teachers to help them kind of bridge the special education and arts opportunities for their kids with disabilities. I went into the classrooms and I helped kind of problem solve and figure out, how the students can best access their art making tools to be able to work as independently as possible with either adaptive tools, adapted mediums, or adapted techniques. And I teach part-time at Mount Mary University. And I also do some online workshops and things for folks actually across the country, showing adaptive tools and how we can best utilize them to help our students, again, can be as independently as possible in our arts making experiences. So I hope to bring you lots of ideas and hope to get even lots more of ideas from you to share with other folks as well. So thanks. Yes. Well, the objectives for tonight are to look at some strategies to help you get to know your students a little bit better, to explore a few tools. We have some art and music tools that you either may not have seen, kind of expand your horizons a little bit for, how to help the students be able to hold on to their tools to make music or to create art. Identifying ways to collaborate with others in your school community. I know a number of you had initially talked about that being one of the things that you have successfully been working on, and hopefully we'll have some more strategies and stuff for that. And to build a collective community here as part of this group. We're only going to be meeting at this point 4 times, but through our resources and through emails and all those kinds of things, we'd like to kind of keep this energy that we're building tonight moving forward so that between now and November, you still feel that you've got, some support and some ideas to, make art as successful as you can for your students.
Just a little bit of data for you. The people that registered for these sessions included over 64 registrants, so all over the United States. We're very excited to have that for our Adapted Arts series. People teach all over, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school, collegiate level, adult, or pre-service educators. But you can see on screen, most of the people have connections with elementary students in either art or music. You'll also notice that some top successful practices that are already in place. First one is people continually seek resources, they collaborate with other staff members, they use adaptive tools, and then they are continuing to search out adaptive strategies that will be helpful to the students that they support in either their art, music, theater classrooms. The majority of the people that registered were art teachers, 71%. The rest of the percentage was music teachers, and then we did have a few theater teachers as well. Some of the New Year challenges that people had identified, the top four, one being inclusive classes with multiple levels that they are experiencing, that wish to have a more thorough knowledge of the realistic resources that they'd be able to use, how to scaffold, and then the last one, just experience using those adaptive strategies. Those are areas that people really wanted to highlight as far as their challenges that they have going into the new year coming out.
Okay. When we had initially set up the this workshop, we had thought to ask you what kinds of questions do you have to kind of help drive where we're going with the sessions. And one of the questions was about concerns about special needs students in the regular education arts classes. And as educators, all of our students that, the regular ed or special ed, are all our students. And we are tasked with finding ways to, help those students be successful in, art making and things. And for a number of our students, arts classes are the most successful places for our students to be. 2 plus 2 doesn't have to be 4, in the art spaces and things. And oftentimes the students that have special needs, through the use of adaptive tools and through the use of exploration and being able to be creative, it's a perfect place for them to be. As we go on with these sessions, we'll be talking about how we can kind of either scaffold lessons so you're not creating, 4 or 5 different lesson plans, to kind of meet all the students' needs. Looking at tasks, looking at what kinds of opportunities we can provide for the students so they feel welcomed, into the classes, and are able to be successful. Was about the use of adaptive and other technologies in the arts classrooms. In my role in Milwaukee Public Schools, I was also in the assistive technology department, and Julie had mentioned earlier about the communication board, a very low-tech communication board on this screen, but it's also in the Padlet. There was a participant who had expressed some interest in looking at some higher tech music opportunities in technology. And that'll be something that we'll be taking a look at and including in our future sessions on different kinds of technologies that we can be using in the arts classrooms that are also being maybe used in the special ed classrooms, that if we could integrate those together, the students coming into the arts opportunities would have a better comfort level of being there because they're familiar with technology across the curriculum. Looking at strategies and lessons for students with social emotional challenges. The SEL certainly is, an important piece of us as educators. And again, we're looking for more information about that from how people, as part of this this workshop are using the SEL strategies, but also then being able to share that with other folks. In my work as an art therapist, a lot of that really is a big question. What's the difference between art therapy and art education, and where does that social emotional learning fit into that? So that's an area we would like to explore. Looking at students with multiple physical and communication challenges, certainly that can provide a number of challenges, for the arts teacher. And again, looking at what kinds of tasks, activities, tools, medias, activities and stuff can really help the students all be successful despite all of their multiple challenges. A little fun little fact, I'll be showing you a handful later, but I have a collection of about 73 different adaptive scissors. And I bet there's not a student that I can't find an adaptive scissors for over my years. And then finally, one of the feedback questions was strategies for varied levels of skills and activities within a one-ish lesson plan. And I know we don't want to have, again, multiple lesson plans, but how we can think about looking at what is the overall arts activity, how can we break it into meaningful tasks, and what tasks are the most important for each individual student as they grow and develop in their creativity. So we'll be asking you to send in more questions, and then we'll integrate those into our sessions as time goes on.
Absolutely. We're going to dive into 3 tips right now, quickly. And then after the 3 tips, you'll have an opportunity to respond to a question we have about people that you think should be involved with all of this educational stuff that we do for kids through the arts. So let's get into tip number 1.
One of the first things that I always encourage teachers to do at the beginning of the year is to observe their students. We have talked that we want to collaborate with other teachers, the special ed teachers and other arts teachers in the building. But despite all of that, observe the students. What kinds of things can they independently engage with? Do they reach out for materials? Do they, manipulate the materials in ways that are going to be successful for making marks or for creating things, for hearing or for, singing? All those different kinds of activities we're looking in the class. What kinds of things does your classroom environment offer? Do you have to, adjust seating areas because you've got some students who can't maybe don't deal well with all the sounds. You might need some headphones, both in the art and the music classes. If the students do have issues with being able to independently engage, be careful about not over adapting. They might be able to be able to grip materials just fine, but they may have a challenge when they're cutting. They may need to have the materials brought to them. They don't have to have a total adaptive kit, but there might be certain parts, certain tasks of the art activity that the students might need a little extra support with. And I think, again, as you're listening to the special ed teachers through the IEPs and things, that there are certainly a lot of information that they give us about the students, about the challenges and this that the students present in um, acad other academics. But sometimes we have to take a look at those kinds of things and figure out what kinds of manifestations of those challenges are actually going to be successful in our arts classes, or might need to have a little extra support. And I think sometimes that's a big issue of looking at how we are manipulating materials. Can they hold on to tools? How close do the tools need to be to them? Are they sitting in a wheelchair? How close proximity are they comfortable with other students? Do you have them at a table? Do you have them in individual chairs? Do you have, carols? There's a lot of different ways that we can manipulate the materials and let the materials do the work to help our students be successful. And another area to observe students is how they understand concepts. A lot of what we do in the arts is very abstract, and some of our students have challenges with the abstract concepts. So we might want to provide more manipulatives, both maybe through technology, through the use of computers, or the different individual computers if the kids are bringing their Chromebooks or have other iPads or something that's dedicated possibly to the art room or to the classroom. Manipulatives. Now that fall is coming, I remember taking a number of getting real leaves and having plastic leaves for doing an art activity based on leaves. I had some kids who were very oral, and I couldn't give them real leaves because they would eat them. So I found some plastic leaves, and then we were able to do leaf rubbings and those kinds of things. And then we worked towards the concepts of trees. And so I, built a little tree out of cardboard and toilet paper rolls and things, and showed how the trees are above the ground, and then there's ground and the roots go underneath. So they could physically feel what I was talking about. So helping them manipulate through the concepts is a good beginning instructional concept. And then asking the students about their own interests. I think sometimes we don't always understand that some students are very thematic based. You'll hear of students that have a preference for only wanting to draw dogs. Well, how can we integrate that dog theme into all the different medias and stuff, or the different kinds of musics that we're doing, so the student stays engaged? It's not going to be in every activity, but maybe once in a while you'll really connect with that student because you were into their thematic ideals and preferences. Many of our students have different kinds of sensory preference issues or challenges, and by being able to be really responsive to that, if we're going to be doing, say, clay, well, maybe some students don't like how traditional clay feels. So maybe we look at alternative kinds of doughs, but being also responsive to students that have gluten issues and getting the right kinds of doughs. So maybe we make some other kinds of doughs that maybe are more scented or smoother or rougher. And then if they can't handle touching it, maybe we use gloves, or you put it in a Ziploc bag and have the students manipulate the clay and stuff through a Ziploc bag, and then pull it out and let it dry. And then asking the students, what's helped previously. Amazingly, some of the students are like, well, 3 years ago I had this really cool, adaptive tool that helped me, whatever. But I haven't used it, and so I haven't been able to participate, and I don't like going to art anymore. So sometimes asking the students, can really give you a lot of information.
Absolutely. So tip number one had a lot in there. And actually, tip number two has some similarities to what Sue was discussing. Quickly, pre-step, just the needs and the skills of the students. And I think Sue did an amazing job just going more into details with that. And just remembering that tips one, two, and three really can be applied to both music and art forms quite a bit. There's a lot of similarities in how we adapt instruction as well as resources for our students. Another question for just prior to even meeting the students is just considering those class objectives. You know, what are the academic and social objectives that you have in mind, and how do those play into the overall school parameters? You know, so whether you have um, the anchor standards for the art, you know, create, respond, present, produce, or connect. What does that look like for all students? What's the possibilities on that? And those social emotional learning components that might really play into it. And then also being aware of if there are IEPs, the individualized student parameters that schools are using to support student success overall. You know, what tools, Sue already shared about this, the tools that already have been supporting learners, just being mindful of a lot of that. But if I go back into the arts content fundamentals, just thinking specifically about art, if we break down art activities and music activities specifically, you know, art fundamentals, we're making marks, we're creating something, we're cutting, we're adhering something to itself or something else. In music, we might be listening, making music or sound, responding verbal, non-verbally, or moving. So just those, you know, if you're breaking it down to its essence of each of the art forms, thinking of what that might look like and how we might help students be successful with their strengths and the challenges that they face daily.
Okay. One of the issues I mentioned about students being able to access independently their tools, I've put up here a couple of different kinds of grips that you might consider using depending upon how the students are accessing their materials.
Just a little
Many
bigger.
grips are also found in the special ed classrooms. And if you ask sometimes the special ed teachers or your occupational therapists or your physical therapists, you might find that they're already using grips to write in their classroom. So if those grips could be brought into the art classroom, you can put it onto your paintbrushes, your colored pencils and all those kinds of things. And just a couple of the grips that are here, um, you kind of see there's uh, the use of a scrunchie, you know, kind of twisting that around a paintbrush or other kind of tool to be able to hold on to the tool a little bit easier and not have to have the student if they have spastic movement to good fling things. I'm planning to have some little videos showing some of these tools in action. So I'm not going to go through all of them tonight, but just to kind of give you an idea of some of the tools that are available out there. One of the things I love using is a milk carton grip. This is literally, it's cut from a milk carton, and you can put your
Do
pencils, your markers and stuff. You can either use it like this. Extension of this would be to go, and you could even take a sponge and hot glue it onto here and then use it as a table cleaning kind of a purpose. But you could put your drumsticks into here. You could put anything. And just depending upon how the student holds on to this, it can really help them be more independent as they're doing their art making. This is an easy grip, and this kind of a grip, again, will be in some of the resources that we will be on the Padlet as well as through the Wisconsin Art Education Association. But you can take your paintbrush, your drumstick, whatever tool, and you'll see these in classrooms. And they're all different sizes and different shapes, and you hold on to them like this, and it helps the student be able to paint or draw. Even if they are using a traditional pincher grasp, this can kind of help support and keep their hands from fatiguing, which is a really important thing for some
And Sue,
students.
if I interrupt you, that could also be used for drumsticks, mallets, maybe, I don't know if it's big enough hole for
Yeah.
a recorder or something, but a lot of music instruments
Okay.
could use those types of tools as well.
Yeah, you can either buy a small little group of them, or you can buy, there's like a kit that has like 7 or 8 different ones, and the holes are
Got
larger
it.
and smaller, and the grips are a little bit wider and longer and narrower, depending upon what you're going to be doing with them. But I'm seeing more and more of these in classrooms, but that the kids either need to be encouraged to bring it along, or the paraprofessionals or support staff should be there to kind of help whatever's working in the regular ed class, bring it to the art room to help the students be able to be, again, kind of transition from the art room, from their classroom to the art room. The next area below that
Yeah.
is looking at adaptive scissors. There's a bunch of different kinds of adaptive scissors and things on there. And if I had to buy one scissors today, this is the scissors that I would buy, the little PETA mini grip. It's small enough for early childhood, and it's comfortable enough for students that are older. Blunt tips. It's very easy to cut with them. You can either use it like a coupon clipper, or you can use it like this. But this is probably my favorite scissors of all time. So the traditional loop scissors work really well, and that's what we find in most of our schools and stuff. But if I had to pick one, I'd pick this one.
So I'm going to share just a little bit about music. So I was thinking about just various things that I've done with not only children but also adults in adaptive music activities, and really just the opportunity to give them choices of various materials. And I think Sue would agree too that just giving people choice of what type of tool they would like to use to be successful in whatever that arts activity is or music activity is really gives them the opportunity to kind of identify what thing they're going to be most comfortable with in being successful. So it might be a scarf, it might be just a various tool, it might be a type of music percussion instrument, whether it's claves versus rhythm sticks versus maracas or shakers or bells or melody bells or boom whackers, making allowing for a lot of choices. Also voice, how are they going to express themselves? They may be expressing themselves by singing, by verbalizing something, by pointing to something, by using sign language. And I put a little thing in sign language. I use sign language a lot. Just typical signs, whether it's sit, whether it's dance, whether it's sing. I've learned a lot of pieces that I utilize quite a bit in my classroom. And I teach that to students so that they can actually utilize sign language as well. And then we use quite often, we use letters and colors and shapes, which goes right alongside what art typically does as well. So when we're performing something, we might have a concentration of 3 notes that we're going to be focusing on for that piece of music. So the one note might be number one or the letter C, or it might be red versus green F4, whatever it is. But helping students gain connections and using icons that are different than maybe musical notation for them to be successful, and pairing those with things that they're familiar with, whether it's color, numbers, letters, or just familiar tools and routines and signs that they would like to that they are successful using already. So those are just a couple of things. So really choice, voice, and routines constantly help success for not just students with special needs or inclusive practice needs, but all students in general. We encourage you to check out the resources that we have available and listed on our slides. All of the links for these resources are within the Padlet, so that might be an easier way to check out some of the inclusive arts strategies and additional pages that are on there. Thank you for joining us for the Adaptive Arts sessions. We look forward to seeing you at the future sessions that we have planned or listening to the recording. you may contact Sue or I at our email address. Thanks again. Have a wonderful start to your school year.